Well, we're here with head coach Nick Bootland. A lot of news going on here in the last 48 hours about the Kalamazoo Wings, especially about the man to my right, Nick Bootland. We'll get to the contract in a second. The first shoe dropped earlier in the week. The ECHL Board of Governors meetings concluded, and the Board of Governors have realigned the ECHL. The K Wings no longer will have a chance to win their fifth North Division title. Their sights will be on the Midwest Division starting this October.
I mean, this is exciting news. I felt that they needed to do something. Obviously with the fact that all the teams in the West seemed to make it no matter what their record was. And you look at a team like Bakersfield who, didn't have an unbelievable regular season and really wouldn't have made the playoffs on our side with their record. And then the run they go on over there. And there had to be some adjustments made in the process. And, it is a business. So, they kind of lined it up like it used to be in the NHL days where you had to get out of your division and play out of your division first before you could move on, which is going to make for some solid rivalries. Obviously, there's some teams in our division that are great rivalries already with us. With Fort Wayne and Evansville is starting to be that, and you're going to get the new team in Indianapolis, and then obviously you're going to get Colorado, which is obviously the one that sort of throws people for a loop because of how far away it is. But they had to do something and make an adjustment, and it's not going to be easy. Essentially, it's a 5-team race for us to make the postseason, and one of our teams don't, and all the franchises that are involved are going to be solid teams.
The schedule had to be made beforehand before realignment were to occur, and it's kind of odd because earlier we were kind of excited to head to the Western Conference to play Colorado. Now those are division games. In fact, the only Midwest Division games that Colorado will play this year will be the 3 against Kalamazoo.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that makes it difficult for them. They don't have those 4-point contests other than the 3 games against us, and that makes a difference. I think there'll be a lot of strategy involved, like you and I were talking about earlier. You're playing in a certain team, but those division games even become more important now than they were before, because essentially, it was the top 8 on our side that made it. So division games were important, but not overly important, because it didn't even matter if you won the North Division, because essentially you didn't get an automatic seeding for that. So you had to be in that top 8. Now there's a real focus on those 5 teams, or essentially 4 teams, including us, to make 5. And I think it's the right thing to do. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the fans will enjoy it once it goes on for a year or two, and you see what it's all about.
Well, the fans ironically get their wish. Since we've been in the ECHL, they want us to go into the other conference and play some games. Well, this year, the K-Wings will play a lot of games in the other conference. In this case, it means going from the West to the East.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, for whatever reason, we're in that conference, and that's the way it lines up. And, I don't think it makes a difference conference-wise, essentially, like I said, but the focus will be heightened with those 5 teams in that huge race right from the get-go.
Well, the one team, obviously, like you talked about, Indianapolis, they're playing their first year here, but it's a rivalry city-wise that dates back to the original IHL. The Hatfields and the McCoys of minor league hockey, the K-Wings and the Comets will still do battle. And even more fun in the playoffs, the Midwest Division, all the divisions will play their first 2 rounds amongst their own.
Right, and that's why I'm saying I think it'll take a year or 2, because now all of a sudden you're going to get maybe back-to-back years where you're playing the same team in the postseason, and that makes things exciting to get out. And then once you get out, you play 2 rounds. Now we're going to the team in the West, for our conference final, because we're part of that conference. So you're going to see a lot of different teams than we've seen in the past. Not so much in the first year. Obviously, this, like we said, the schedule is set before they've made these decisions, and that's not going to change because people are working hard at doing their jobs to try and fill all their buildings.
Well, the fun part of it, not to put the cart in front of the horse, but if a team like Kalamazoo were to get to the Kelly Cup finals, a lot of the fans in Kalamazoo would probably have a good chance to travel to the finals, since all of them would be 5 hours, within 5 to 10 hours of Kalamazoo, compared to in previous years, the finals would have had to have been in Alaska or Bakersfield or Stockton. Those would be conference finals matchups. It could be Kalamazoo-Toledo. It could be Kalamazoo-Cincinnati if the stars were to align, and having teams from both teams travel and be a part of a championship run.
Yeah, I think, obviously that's an excitement value for our fan base. You get an opportunity to be a lot closer, to have an opportunity to see that. Our focus is to try and get there, so we're going to try and make that helpful for our fans so they can come and watch us play in the finals. That's the hope, and that's what we work for every day. So, we're excited about that opportunity, and at the same time, you're going to get some Western foes in there prior to that, which is exciting too. It's different for our guys to go out west. We don't do that very often. This year is the first year since I've been coaching here that we're going to do it in the regular season with the 3 games against Colorado, and I'd imagine that could change a little bit. Colorado might have to start coming our way now, I would assume next year with some of this realignment.
What's called, this is in TV, it's called a segue. We'll make the segue now. How much does the conference heading out to the West change in the recruiting process of what you have to do?
I don't think it really changes much. Those teams in the West have a tendency to play a lot of 3-game sets against each other, so that they protect themselves with some rough and tumble guys, and it seems to be a little bit more of a common theme in those Western teams because they play each other so many times back to back. But really, essentially for us, it just happens once this year, so it's not going to change too much in my recruiting process. We're trying to put the fastest, most competitive team on the ice, and that's always the goal.
The bigger issue, I think, for recruiting also occurred this week with the announcement that you've signed a new 3-year deal. You had 1 year left on your contract. That becomes null and void, and now a new 3-year deal. That has to help with recruiting because players like consistency for the next 3 years. You're the bench boss once again for your Kalamazoo Wings.
Yeah, I'm obviously tremendously excited about the organization and ownership extending this opportunity to myself and my family. And we love Kalamazoo. We love the fan base in Kalamazoo. We're passionate about Kalamazoo. On and off the ice, we're passionate about Kalamazoo. And it's an easy sell for me. It's an organization that has the same beliefs that I have. We want to win. We get up every day and we try to win. That's what our goal is. We want to win championships. We want to be part of that. And we have an ownership group that's hugely immense in this community, and nothing makes myself and my family prouder than being the head coach of this organization.
And I know on a year-by-year basis you view success as holding that Kelly Cup or holding the league's championship in your hand, but even you have to look back 40 years of history here going into the 41st season of Kalamazoo Wings hockey. No coach has won more games behind the bench than your 240 here. And you look at the names that are on this list: Hitchcock, Reeds, Noel. That's a lot of history here in this building, but no one has won more games than you.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that longevity has something to do with that. Some of those guys weren't here as long as I have been, so that's the one advantage that I have over those gentlemen. But even to have your name amongst those guys that are established NHL coaches and have had opportunities to be represent NHL teams after being in Kalamazoo is obviously very, very exciting and humbling for me.
On the other side, though, it's coaching. If you don't get the wins, you don't get the longevity.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, we know what we sign up here as coaches, and we know what we sign up for, and we know that you're working hard, and if you don't get the results, then you don't have that longevity and that consistency that you were talking about earlier.
Head coach Nick Bootland signing a new 3-year deal. The K-Wings in the Midwest Division, which is in the Western Conference this year. That's the first news that has broke this summer. More news coming out. We'll talk to Nick later in the week. We may have a signing. We may have some other news on the player front. Listen to kwings.com as well as social media pages to find out your latest about your Kalamazoo Wings.